Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral.
Okay, so I'm going to do the intro to this one because clearly you never know how to do it right, Jac. Welcome back, keepers, to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral. I am Gabrielle Dolan and you are?
No, I think you should say who I am because I won't get it right.
You're Jac Phillips.
Naughty Jac Phillips. Do I trigger you, Ral?
Yes, all the time.
I was going to say you're a glimmer in my life.
I know.
Oh,
I am.
I know. Listen to her.
I provide the glimmer, you provide the trigger.
I'll pull the bloody trigger. Okay, so happy days, and here we are, Keeping It Real, another episode. And you came up with this one.
I did.
And it is a beauty, and it's very, culturally and pop culture. It's very, very now, triggers and glimmers. These are not words that were around some years ago.
No, and the reason I suggested it is because I saw something around triggers and glimmers and I thought, I've never heard, what does that mean? And then when I looked into it, it reminded me of a session that we did at Harvard.
There's Harvard again.
Okay, I reckon that we haven't mentioned Harvard for ages.
We haven't. That time, I think, was when you went to Harvard.
Yeah, I went to
without
Harvard.
me, so would not have been a glimmer.
Right. Okay. But what they
Triggered her
spoke
again.
about, they didn't call it triggers, they called it chimes. And it was know your chimes. And it was, the concept was, when something sort of annoys you, I guess, and it's sort of the chimes was like, ding, it was like, God, why did that annoy me so much? Or and being aware of it. And the whole concept, if you're not aware,
self-awareness.
if you're not aware what triggers you, because, and we will talk about this a bit later, a trigger is actually your body goes into fight or flight.
Correct.
So you can have an emotional reaction and which, let's face it, sometimes when in the heat of the moment, that's never goes to a good outcome. So what they talked about in Harvard is you've got to know them. You've got to know what they are. So when it happens, it's like awareness, we always say. You go, this is why it's happening, because this is really triggering me. Because what they also said is people can use it deliberately to throw you off your game, or they can actually use it to motivate you. So, but the thing is that let's start with, you got to be aware of them in the first place.
You absolutely do. What I found interesting when I was doing a bit of research for this, triggers are emotional reactions, e.g. frustration, defensiveness, stress, that signal underlying fears, insecurities or unaddressed challenges. That's quite broad.
Yeah, very broad.
So you can be triggered by a fear, you can be triggered by something that makes you feel insecure or something that hasn't been addressed in your life, or maybe more broadly, but it's affecting you.
Could you be triggered? It just annoys you? Or is that, maybe that's something that's not been addressed,
well, sure.
I guess.
It's a signal. Underlies a fear, an insecurity or unaddressed challenge. Yeah. It's really interesting because the word triggers has been widely used in psychology for years.
Yeah.
And it refers to stimuli that evoke strong emotional reactions. I mean, there's plenty of things that could be stimulus, particularly in trauma survivors. Yeah, so again, we've taken the word from a psychology perspective and probably applied it more to everyday.
Yeah.
So a lot of people use the word now, that triggered me.
Yeah, and I guess
are you a trauma survivor? Now maybe they're not, but it still triggered them.
And you've certainly seen the rise of people saying, especially news, this may be triggering for some people.
True. So it's gained mainstream popularity through mental health discussions because that's become way more common now in workplaces, in social settings, and certainly in the media.
Yeah. Can I share a story?
Of course you can.
Of course I can. I experienced this it to such a level that I still replay the conversations and things. So one of the things that triggers me, and I know it triggers me, is like sexism. Like when people underlying and this time it was probably, I reckon it could have been like 8-10 years ago. And I was in the car with Alex. So Alex would have been, let's say,
your daughter?
Yeah. So let's say she was 15. I'm parking the car. There was a couple of three tradesmen working across the road, and I reversed the car, and my tyre just sort of hit the curve of the thing. And the window was down, and one of the tradies yells out, "Oh, bet your husband won't be happy about that." And my instant reaction was like,
here's a trigger coming,
instant
people.
reaction was dickhead. But I looked at him and said, well, why would my husband care? It's my car. Like,
well, first of all, don't assume you have a husband.
Yes.
You might have a wife.
Yeah.
Or you might be single.
Exactly. So I said, why would my husband be concerned about that? It's my car. And then he said, well, I bet he paid for it.
Oh, wow.
I swear to God, Jack, it was
There's
the
a trigger.
only thing
Incoming trigger.
that didn't
I'm triggered.
stop me. Well, there's a few
Punching
things.
him in the nose.
I reckon Alex could see me
Fired up.
because I literally I rolled my eyes and said under my breath, but loud enough for him to hear, dickhead.
Yep.
Right. And then I'm like getting ready to go out and then I'm going and Alex is going, Mum, don't say anything. Please don't say anything.
I love it
Please
when we
don't
embarrass
say
our
anything.
kids.
And she was begging me not to say anything.
So really it triggered
so
her.
I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't. I just walked off. But then I thought, if I had said something then, it was like he would have. It's just a joke, love. Yeah. It's just.
Or, well, you don't know.
Why I'm
You don't
talking
know.
like
He
this,
might
but-
have had a mental health issue and might have attacked you. I mean, you don't know. What
and you know what
he would have
disappointed me
done.
more than anything is if it had been, I don't know, a 70-year-old guy, I would have been going, okay, whatever, generational,
Yeah,
move
old
on.
traditional boy.
This guy, and he was you could tell, I reckon he was about 40, 45.
Okay, so no,
and he had
not-
two
not
young
young.
tradies working for him. Part of me thought, I'm like
The influence.
This is the role modelling.
Yeah,
I'm
that
sure
you've
the young tradies probably didn't think it was okay.
No.
But they probably didn't say anything because it's his boss. But I just sort of thought, you're a 40, 45-year-old guy, and it's still the first thing that comes out of your mind.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say was, mate, I would earn more in a day than you would in a month, right?
It's not a
First of all,
competition.
I know it's not a competition. And at that point, Steve wasn't working.
No.
But I thought,
Oh, I see. This is the whole sexism thing,
this
which is
all
like,
Steve
don't
wasn't even
assume.
working. And I could, but I thought I don't need to hand over my financial.
No, you don't. You don't. and
statements
don't
to
indulge
this
this too
dickhead.
much longer. But recognise what does set you off.
Yeah.
Which
So
is clearly sexism.
You know how
And
much it.
Fair enough.
I didn't say anything because Alex was begging me not to, and I just got in the car and left. I took Alex home, and about 10 minutes later, I was still fuming. I drove back because I was going to just go up to him and say something, but they'd left.
Wow. That really did trigger you.
Yeah.
How long ago was that? How many years ago?
8 years ago, it's still getting
And
fired
it
up.
still annoys you.
Yep.
Okay, so given a trigger is an emotional reaction that signals underlying fears, insecurities, or unaddressed challenges, which is it for you with sexism? Is it fear, insecurity, or an unaddressed challenge?
It's an unaddressed challenge.
Yeah.
And that the fact that he was
Frustrates
a
you.
younger guy, it was like, why are we still seriously
Having
why
this
are we still having
conversation?
this conversation? Like, what any woman driving around in a nice car is an assumption that the husband bought it for her. Like, my God, what?
Yeah.
Seriously.
What year are we living in?
What year are we
It
living
is an unaddressed challenge, sexism, and I can understand why that triggers you because you are somebody who likes solutions and likes being part of a solution. And this one's a big unaddressed challenge, which you might not be able to solve for.
Can't solve sexism. Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's a bird hitting a window.
Sorry, listeners. There was a bird that just flew.
So my mother is staying with
into
me, as you
Jack's
know,
window.
and she said those windows are filthy. I'm going to clean them,
They're too clean.
and they're too clean. So we've just lost a birdie out there.
Linda, you just killed a bird for having
she
clean
didn't
windows.
kill the bird. That's a trigger.
Oh my God, it's not dead, everyone. It's just stunned. What's your trigger?
I think I have more glimmers.
Animal cruelty?
I hate animal cruelty.
Right.
I've got 7 horses here, as you know. I've got a dog. I see lots of wildlife around me. I live in the country. I replay over and over if an animal is harmed or hurt or could be. That's something that absolutely triggers me. So what is it? Is it a fear? Probably. Is it an insecurity? No. Is it an unaddressed challenge? Probably more a fear of me not being able to help or solve for something, look after something. But I think I have way more glimmers than I have triggers because when you asked me about what triggers me, I had to really, really think about that. I didn't know it.
Update, breaking news. Linda's gone out to check on the bird and it just flew away. Everyone relax.
It's just a bit stunned. It's probably now
Bird was
flown
bit
into a
stunned.
tree.
The
but
bird
anyway.
wanted to get a bird's eye view of Keeping It Real podcast. Can you explain glimmers?
I can. Small positive moments that spark joy, motivation, and a sense of alignment. But here's where glimmers are interesting. The term glimmers is a more recent addition to our vocabulary. And, of course, it's gained traction through social media and wellness communities. Coined by a female called Deb Dana, Deb is a therapist specialising in polyvagal theory. I've no idea what polyvagal theory is.
Don't know what that is.
Glimmers refers to small positive moments that create a sense of safety and connection. Unlike triggers, which evoke distress, glimmers activate the body's parasympathetic nervous system, promoting calm and well-being. So we want glimmers. We want more glimmers, lots of glimmers. But I think when you and I were talking about how we sort of prepare for this episode, you were saying it's important to be aware of glimmers. And I said, well, isn't it funny, because it seems to be the small things for you and I. And I think that's what glimmers are. They're the little things. A good cup of coffee in the morning, a beautiful sunset, nature.
Yeah.
I don't know, somebody touching your arm.
Yeah.
Things that make you feel good.
Yeah.
And we all have those.
Yeah, and I guess it's the part with glimmers is like triggers. If you're aware of them, know, oh my God, why I'm having such a reaction to this, why? And then you hopefully can make a better decision based on that. But glimmers is if you're aware of them, well, how do you build more of that into your day?
Or more self-awareness of those glimmers.
Yes, yeah. So there was
Look for them.
One of the things is their advice is to look for them and notice them. And so I read something that it was like set an intention.
Yep.
So it could be like, I guess that's gratitude or like knowing what it is.
It is. It is. Write them down. Be more
they
aware.
talk about limit screen time, and I think that is just get your head out of your screen. and
Having said
look
that,
around.
I know both you and I enjoy being on screens for various reasons. I get a lot of joy from seeing other people's lives.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, it's the Instagram wonder or it's the LinkedIn, the best of. But what's wrong with that?
No,
if it brings you joy.
And part of me is helping. It's interesting. Part of me noticing glimmers is sometimes something will happen, whether it just be a sunset or
Your kangaroos at Bermagui.
I
love seeing them. I never
it would be
can
like
see enough
because
of them.
they give me so much joy and I'm so aware of it that I constantly go, oh, isn't that amazing? Oh, that's cool, because I've had that connect.
Correct.
That I want to take a photo.
Yeah.
And then I
share it. Share your glimmer.
So, a friend of mine once said, are you doing a PhD on kangaroos? Like, and so much. So it is, and to me that's been intentional.
Yeah, intentional.
Like,
well, being self-aware again, it comes back to that. So it's very easy to go through your day. So I used to work with a chap, Tony, and Tony was definitely a pessimist.
Yep.
Yeah. So you'd walk in the morning and I'd say, good morning, Tony. He'd go, what's good about it, Jac? And I'd think, oh, Tony, you're alive.
Yep.
You're sitting here in a very cushy job getting paid a shitload of money and you're very mediocre. You got a nice office. You got a great team. I reckon there's a lot that makes it a really good morning.
Yeah.
Now, Tony had plenty of glimmers in his life, but he never chose to see them.
Yeah.
And so coming back to this being intentional, being more aware of what's good, of how lucky we are, and we are lucky. The people listening to this podcast is lucky. That's not to say they haven't experienced trauma or they don't have triggers or there aren't things going on in their life that's difficult. We all have that too. But it's choosing to recognise the glimmers and trying to ensure that the glimmers far outweigh the triggers.
Yeah. Is it positive mindset just when you said that, it was actually reminding me of a Seinfeld episode. Mm-hmm. And with Jerry Seinfeld, he's having a coffee and Elaine or George was opposite and he's going, this is a good coffee. No, this is a really good coffee.
I have those conversations.
And like he goes, we don't appreciate this. And that could be a glimmer to literally go,
Louis and I had that conversation
really good coffee.
the other morning. Louis came up to the farm, had the night with us. We always get up really early in the morning. He's a very early riser because he's doing lots of running. And so we got up and, Mum, could you turn the tap off, please? Keeping it real for Jac and Ral. We are recording in my lounge room and my mother is cooking up a storm in the kitchen, forgetting we are recording and the water is running. So back to Louis. We're having our early morning coffee. It is
clearly
only
that was a bit of a trigger.
Daybreak. That was a trigger. My mother was a trigger for that moment. She's often a glimmer.
You're a glimmer, Linda. You're a glimmer to me.
But I'll listen to you, suck.
Anyway, yes, you and Louis.
And we were saying, how good is the coffee? And then as we were saying that, the sun was rising. How good is the sunrise? And we looked out and it was beautiful outside, nature. So there are so many things.
Yeah. Well,
to be
you often
grateful
post
for.
on, be like Happy Tuesday and it's just the sunrise again, the
love
sunrise
it.
again.
I see it.
So yeah,
Makes me feel good.
It is noticing those little things.
Agreed. Totally agree. So I think we should bring this back to a workplace.
Yes,
Yeah,
I was
because it's
just about
important.
to
So people that we, talk to, that they're working. They're leaders. If they're not leaders, they want to be leaders. They're in the workplace. Why do glimmers and triggers matter for leaders and business owners?
Yeah.
Give me
So-
your thoughts on that.
Well, I think it's like at an individual level, knowing what triggers you,
Yes.
and what glimmers,
Yeah.
because it could be used to, and again, this is what they said at Harvard, throw you off track,
Yep.
or motivate you.
Correct.
So knowing that. So I think as an
Correct.
individual, you go, well, could I use this to motivate myself
Yeah.
and inspire me
Yeah.
or notice the joy? And as a leader, could you use that? So
Absolutely.
if I share another example, going back to my triggers of sexism, this happened years and years ago. My mentor at the time, Pete, he was we were working together. Well, what's the target for the year? And one of the targets was how much money do you want to earn?
Yep.
And we were part of this Thought Leaders Business
Global
School.
thought leaders, yeah.
Yeah, which one of the concepts is reaching black belt, which is 720,000 in sales.
Yep.
And so this was when I just started out, and I was not earning anywhere near.
So you're imagining 720, thinking, whoa, there's a number.
Yeah, no, probably sales was about 150.
Yeah, so there was a bit of a gap, bit of a margin.
Big gap. And he said, so are we going to go for black belt this year? And I went, Pete, seriously, I don't think I can go from this to that in a year. I'm just going to aim for whatever, 400, whatever it was. And he said to me, he goes, oh, well, Jason's in your position and he's going for black belt. and then he looked at
Pete's
me.
clever.
And then he looked at me and went, yeah, but he's a boy and you're a girl. So I guess, and as soon as he said it, I go, I know what you're doing to me.
But
I know what you're doing
I bet
to me.
it worked.
And he just stayed silent. And I went, I know what you're doing to. Fine then. I will go for black belt. And he just
Yeah.
had a little smirk. And
So that's using a trigger in a positive way to
motivation
motivate.
Yeah, and so
I
this
like
is from
that.
a business perspective, if you sort of want to motivate, and by the way, I did get it.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't think
Skite.
I don't think Jason did.
Well, he's a boy.
If you're aware of that, what motivates your team, it could be a little
smart,
deliberate,
smart.
but going, and it may, I don't know what it is, but find something that it's a trigger but motivates them.
Absolutely. I think I told you that story when I joined one of the banks, my first, day or two, and there was Moody Judy. How do I want to be? Well, I want to talk about the glimmers. I want to be a positive influence on this team and how quickly they came along. Yeah. So using glimmers to cultivate a positive leadership presence and build resilience, and being self-aware of triggers, helping you regulate emotions and respond, not react.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Pete was doing with you. He was helping you respond and actually step up to the target.
And you know what? He knew I could do it.
Exactly right.
He knew I could do it.
So really, if you understand your team's triggers and glimmers, you can improve workplace culture and psychological safety. But where does it come back to? It actually comes back to you needing to know what your team is like, who your team are, what does trigger them, what motivates them. And that's about feedback and self-awareness.
And that also at an individual level.
Yeah, exactly.
Like not collectively
Exactly.
you could think of what we could do as a team.
Exactly.
But, if you're managing people, it could be a team of 10, you need to work with them individually.
Absolutely.
This is even like performance appraisal
Correct.
or how do you keep them attracted and motivated
and engaged and retained.
And,
so I knew I had a couple of young parents in one of my teams, and what's the one thing young parents want to talk about in most cases is their kids. Yeah. And I loved hearing about their kids.
Yeah.
I was authentically and very genuinely interested, and then I'd share conversations about my kids. So between us we would get this deeper engagement about our kids. Yes, we'd get to the work, we're at work, but just a couple of minutes on the kids. So things that would actually be a glimmer.
Yeah.
Now and again, I might have got that wrong because, one of those kids had thrown up on them or had, thrown a tantrum as they were trying to walk out the door, and I've had all of that. So it was a bit of a trigger.
Yeah.
But we'd have a giggle about that and then we'd move on.
Yeah.
So I think you can use glimmers and triggers in the workplace to absolutely both motivate, deeply engage with, and create really good culture.
Yeah. And I guess, going in an individual level too, you might not be, maybe you're not in a job you love or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're looking for those glimmers, and then we
Yep.
talked about you be intentional to notice things. We go, this is really happening. I know last week we spoke about my health scare.
Yep.
I think one of the things that I have noticed over the last month is tuning into more
Good.
glimmers, and it
Good.
was like, and because I've been taking it easy, it was like, I just just having a coffee in bed.
And just enjoying
Opening
that.
up the windows, seeing the sunrise, and just
How lovely.
and not feeling guilty.
How lovely.
And just going, sometimes it's that concept of stop and smell the roses
And seeing beauty in things.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just thinking every time I come to your house, I see so much beauty.
Yeah, you are often.
I'm always taking photos.
I'm amazed at what you take photos of.
just
and because it's a really
beautiful.
cool thing. It was like our stairwell.
I love your stairwell.
I see that
It
stairwell
brings me
100
huge joy.
times a day, and every time you come, you take a photo of it.
And it's awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. So if we were to do some tips and techniques around glimmers and triggers for our keepers listening, there's a few I've got and I know you've got a few. Self-reflection techniques, journaling about moments of strong emotional response, positive and negative, okay? Not everyone needs to write stuff down, but actually just being really self-aware and being very, very aware of what brings you joy, what's the positive, and what might trigger you. Paying attention to recurring patterns in stress or joy at work. When I'm coaching people and they'll say to me, this happened again, I'll say, let's just pause on that for a minute. This happened again. So this is something that is recurring. Why does it recur? Why is it still affecting you? So actually just taking a moment on that, I think that's important. Managing triggers effectively, taking a pause before reacting. That awesome line, the pause between stimulus and response. Now, this is the hardest thing in the world. I'm really good at telling people what to do here and coaching on this, but trying it myself. Work in progress. So as something sets me off, stepping back, keeping my mouth closed, try to turn it into, okay, it's happened. Just sit with it for a minute. Do not react.
Yeah.
Very hard to do.
That's very
But
hard.
practice
And
it.
that's what, but again, if you're aware of it, because if something,
Yes.
someone could say something to you, and if it's a trigger and you just go,
And they don't know it's a
and
trigger.
that person's going, geez, bloody hell, what did I say? And they will think it's an extreme reaction.
Correct.
Which it probably is.
Sure.
So that's why it's important to know, to just go, and this can be a few seconds of going, okay, it's happening, this is why it's happening. I know it is, they probably didn't mean it. Take a breath and just move on.
And remember, somebody's reaction is very rarely about you.
Yeah.
It's about them.
Yeah.
If they've reacted in a way, it's something to do with them. So we're cultivating more glimmers is another great tip, Recognising the small wins and the successes, the coffee in the morning, the kangaroos at Bermagui, the sunset, nature, good people, a kiss, a cuddle, a phone call, a text. Those can be glimmers, if they make you feel good. And creating intentional moments of joy for yourself and your team. So, I identified really quickly because I was leading a majority team of women. These women a lot of them were young mums, and they didn't get a lot of time to themselves. So one of our offsites, we went and did a spa session.
Oh, nice.
Now, the boys that were in the team didn't mind that either. They hadn't had a pamper session either. They leaned into it and had a giggle, but they were really gorgeous. They could see that the girls thought that was fabulous. They said, we'll go along with that. Forget the 10-pin bowling. Forget going to the pub. Let's go to the spa. So recognising what might be a glimmer. And then encouraging glimmer culture, especially in business.
I like that. Glimmer culture.
Glimmer culture, bit of GC. I'm not talking Gold Coast, though you could perhaps have a glimmer on the Gold Coast. Leaders modelling appreciation and celebration of achievements and small things, designing customer experiences that spark positive emotions.
Yeah.
We spoke about that in a recent podcast around creativity and customer engagement, being generous.
And I think
Being
with that too,
kind.
as leaders, celebrate the glimmers, but they don't have to be these big, massive things.
No, they
They
don't.
could just be little things, but
don't.
noticing them.
So I'd like to set an action. I set actions for my clients.
Yep.
And they love it. And I hold them accountable to these actions. Well, I say they love it. They probably don't. But anyway, they do them. They complete them. The action for our keepers is actually spend the next week noticing glimmers and triggers. What are the biggest, I was going to say trigger, and what is the biggest glimmer? Write
Yeah.
it down. Think about it. Say, how can I get more glimmers and how can I reduce the triggers?
Yeah.
There's the action.
Yeah. And I also think if you're sort of going, I don't know, maybe I just go through life or the day
Without triggers and
without
glimmers.
triggers and glimmers, I would go notice them. Like,
You're not
I love
self-aware.
gamifying anything. It was like, okay, I want to notice at least 5 things today
Cool.
that give me joy
Yeah.
or as a glimmer. And
Nice.
you could write it down, you said, or you could take a photo.
Yeah.
Like I do, just take a photo of it.
And when you take photos of things, sometimes I'm in a plane and we're delayed. I've got no internet for whatever reason.
that too.
And
Go
I go
through
through
your
my
photos.
photos. And it shows me, I take a lot of photos of a lot of really nice stuff.
Yeah.
It might be architecture, it's always people, a lot of horses, a lot of Django, a lot of my family, definitely a lot of the farm,
There'd be heaps of me in there, I'm sure.
one or two of Ral scowling at me because I haven't introduced keeping it real properly.
Yeah. So I think that's
lots of
I
good
think
things.
it's like anything, it's being aware, it's being mindful of it. Yeah. If we would all hope everyone would hope you have more glimmers in your life than triggers.
You can have more glimmers in your life than triggers.
You know what?
You are in control of that.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
It's just
Notice
noticing
them.
And
Notice them.
what works for me and Jack is we take a photo.
Yeah.
And sometimes I post it. Most of the time I don't.
Sometimes we send photos to each other on text. I send a lot of photos on text to people. And that's, again, about focusing on connection. You'd written that down on our whiteboard that I'm just looking at right now because we've gone off track a bit. Focusing on connection and relationships, positive connection, positive relationships.
And part of that is connecting to you.
Correct.
Okay, well, I think if you want to focus on...
We've done trimmers.
Connection and glimmers, what you really want to be doing is get yourself to Fiji.
Speaking of
Find
glimmers.
a little segue to bring in Fiji all the time.
So this is why you're a glimmer in my life.
Anyway, look, if you're a listener, if
new
you're a
keeper?
keeper, you've heard about Fiji. 3 days, 3 amazing 3 days, 3 days with Jack
With two
and
glimmers.
with us talking about in all seriousness, it's going to be a time for you to focus on you, to reset, to refocus, to learn some new skills, to meet some amazing people, and just some downtime to really help you set you up for success for the next, whatever next is for you. So
Whatever next glimmer might be in your career.
So all the details will be in the show notes. If you want to have a chat about whether it's right for you, just send us an email or a text
DM,
or LinkedIn post, and we will set up a chat and have a chat to us. As always, this has been a value
5 stars, please.
5-star rating.
Share us.
Share it with your friends. That's the best way you can support us, is to share this podcast. We want to get our messages out to as many people as possible,
We like giving free advice and sharing our stories.
whether you want it or not.
You're getting it.
You're gonna get
Yeah,
it.
just like our husbands.
Unsolicited advice. That's what we're the queens of.
Keeping it real with Jack and Ral.
Just ask our children about that. Anyway, keepers, thanks again. We will see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keehlan Ferrari-Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.